Many current and former students say that the best summer intensive acting programs are at Maggie Flanigan Studio. Ralph Anthony, a stand-up comic, discusses how the summer intensive helped him to become a more vulnerable person and actor.
I was pretty surprised on how vulnerable I could be. I don't think anybody is really that comfortable being vulnerable, especially living in New York. In New York, you have to have this tough exterior all the time, and opening up those little doors about yourself and about your past, it's tough, and sometimes people just don't want to do it. You're scared. It's almost like opening Pandora's box, where you're afraid if it's going to be a flood. It's like a flood of emotions, and I learned how to do it in a way that made me feel comfortable and made me feel excited to be in a role or in acting and with my partner in front of this class. Growing up, it was kind of tough. And for certain scenes or certain parts of the independent activity, I pulled upon those experiences to get me where I needed to be. And it was really cool just to see how I could disconnect from this and rely on the heart, rely from here. I remember that's what Charlie always said. He says, you can't think from up here. You're gonna come from right here. And I think using my heart instead of my head to expose my vulnerability was the biggest thing that I learned. I had a show on Saturday where I did a half an hour, and it was one of the best half an hours I ever did. And it was just so cool to be present. And I think that's something that I learned about myself before, is just how to be more present and actively listening to what the audience was giving me back. It's like a weird version of the repetition exercise. It's a lot of fun. I actually, this past weekend was one of the most fun times I've had on stage, just playing off of people, because it was a smaller crowd. So I had to really hone and use what I've been learning to get that give and take, that back and forth, and just really use them and pretend like they were just one partner. We all struggle. We're all going through our own things and trying to figure out where we're going in this course and how we're learning. And you learn by doing. So if you're watching somebody else, you see what they're doing well, you want to find out. You want to talk to them. There's a couple kids in my class, a couple other students that watching it was just so phenomenal. How they could get their mind where they need it to be, get their mind, get their heart, get everything aligned. That was really tough for me in the beginning. And seeing them so successful and just being able to talk to them. A peer comes up to you and says, wow, that was amazing. We were on the edge of our seat last Friday watching you and your scene partner do your scene. It was so amazing because I almost blacked out and I didn't, it was like there was no one in the classroom. Charlie wasn't there, none of my other students were there. It was just me and my partner, or my partner and I, and then to hear that at the end, it's really cool. You need that community, especially with this, because it's not easy. You don't spend money, you don't invest in something if you're not passionate about it. And everybody, whatever their talent level was, we all had the same level of passion. And watching other people grow, not just so much myself, but if you have a one-on-one, it's just you and your teacher. You need to see the other people around you. Charlie is probably one of the greatest teachers I've had in terms of anything I've done in my life. When you're at that level, you have a higher bar of expectations, and you don't lower the bar, and that's what I love. That's how I was brought up. That's how my parents raised me. That's how some of the most influential coaches I had from playing sports, taught me and trained me. He has a standard, and he won't let it waver. There was a couple times where, I wasn't where I needed to be. And I don't want to say drop the ball, because I was so new. There's no ball to drop. I think people forget that you want constructive criticism, and that's really what it is. And he has such a vested interest in each one of his students that, you won't be accepted into this program if you didn't see anything. And that's why you have the interview process in the beginning. He's not going to let everyone in if he doesn't feel like you're going to be committed. He reminded me a lot of a coach that I had in high school. And I used to run the 400 open, and I would go so hard in the beginning that for the last 50 meters, 100 meters, I would run out of gas. And my coach would start when you come around that last bend, and he would run the last 50 meters, the last 100 meters, and he would be yelling at me and pushing me, and I would keep going and going. And when I had nothing left, I still kept going. And that's what Charlie reminded me of right from the first class. I don't want to be coddled. I want to be pushed. I want you to get on me. If I'm not doing it, you tell me how to do it. It's a tough love. And he loves his craft. He loves acting. He eats, breathes, and sleeps it. You could be, enthralled with the idea of being an actor, but aren't enthralled with all the work that you have to go along with it. And that's what Charlie brings to the table. He gets you to be passionate about the hard work in all the little steps. I almost cried twice in class. Look at the size of me. He got me to be vulnerable. Him and Karen, they were like a 1-2 punch. When he wasn't there, she was there. And it was just amazing to have that level of intensity. When he explained how he got into teaching, I think that's what really helped mold our perception, at least my perception, because his goal is to educate and to help us. And that's what you want as a teacher. You want someone that's going to cultivate your ability and help you find what you're looking for. And there's a lot of things. This is a big, complicated thing right here. This is very complicated, but he helps simplify it as best he can. I was legitimately sad that yesterday was our last class. I didn't want it to end because I like coming here. I just liked hearing the Charlieisms. Would you be willing to walk on hot coals for this? That's one thing that I remember, especially with that independent activity. He says, if you have passion, if you have desire, you have to be willing to walk on hot coals. And I'm ready to burn the bottoms of my feet off. That's what Charlie is. He makes you want to burn the bottoms of your feet. Just, you want to keep working. You want to be dedicated. And you don't want to let him down. That's a big thing.
To learn more about the best summer intensive acting programs in New York City, visit the Maggie Flanigan Studio website. To apply for the summer programs or the 2-year acting program, submit the online application. Students with specific questions about the schedule can call the studio directly at 917-789-1599.